Ooh, ooh. Oh, it's cold. It's cold. As you can see, this week, Mr. Richmond has sent me to the ice planet of Hoth to do my movie reviews. Why he keeps sending me to these places, I don't know. Probably the same reason he keeps making me review every movie ever made. That's right, folks. This is every movie ever, where we're reviewing every movie ever made. And I am here today with my pet tauntaun, Jerry. Hi, Jerry. You're a good boy. Who's a good tauntaun? Who's a good tauntaun? You are, yes. Well, I'm so glad that Mr. Richmond at least let me have one of these beasts so that when the dark of night comes, I can cut it open and climb inside. But before that, I've got to review these movies so I can get out of here maybe. And we're going to start this week with The Departed. I should tell you this week's theme, because Mr. Richmond doesn't feel like he's getting his money's worth out of these things. He thinks we need to start having themes. And this week's theme is we are looking at the top 50 or so movies ranked on IMDB, what IMDB users have called the top 50 movies. I've already reviewed a lot in the top 50, so we're going to be looking at the ones that I haven't reviewed yet. And we're going to be starting with The Departed. The Departed was Martin Scorsese's movie of a few years ago about undercover cops, more or less, where Leonardo DiCaprio is an undercover cop working with the Irish mob led by Jack Nicholson, and Matt Damon is, I guess, an undercover mobster working for the police and reporting back to Jack Nicholson. This is a great movie. I really loved this movie. I thought that Scorsese really hit this one out of the park after a couple of movies that were sort of halfway there for me. I really loved this one. The Boston accents are maybe a bit much in places. Jack Nicholson is at his craziest. I think it's a lot of fun. I think you should see it. I'm going to give it 4 stars. Rear Window is another great movie. I suppose it shouldn't be too much of a surprise if we're looking at movies that are at the top of the list on the Internet Movie Database that these would be pretty good movies. Rear Window is, of course, the classic Alfred Hitchcock, one of my favorites, where Jimmy Stewart is a photographer whose leg's broken, so he spends all day looking out his back window at his neighbors, and he decides that he thinks that one of his neighbors has committed murder. But have they actually committed murder, or is Jimmy Stewart just being a busybody? That's the question as he teams up with his friend Grace Kelly and makes her go over there to examine it. This is a great movie. You wouldn't think a movie about a guy watching stuff through the window would be great, but this one really, really is. And it ends up being a great, not only is it a terrific thriller and a super entertaining movie, it's a terrific exploration of voyeurism so that Jimmy Stewart's window essentially becomes a movie screen that he is watching. So that when he's watching Grace Kelly over on the other, across the way in the other apartment, he is an audience member like us. It's very cool. It's a very cool movie. I got to give this one 5 stars. Up next, and we are going from the bottom, we're going from like 50 up toward 1 is what we're doing. And so the next one up, IMDb users think that The Green Mile is a better movie than Rear Window. Spoiler alert, they're wrong. Listen, The Green Mile is a pretty good movie. I like it. It's sort of Shawshank Redemption warmed over a little bit in that it's Frank Darabont, who directed The Shawshank Redemption, directing another movie that is set in a prison and is based on a book by Stephen King. This one stars Tom Hanks as the jailer and Michael Clark Duncan as the magical guy on death row who has the power to cure people's sicknesses and things. Like Shawshank Redemption, it's very episodic. There's a lot of little adventures inside of this. A number of them focus on Michael Jeter. He's also on death row. The guy from Evening Shade is on death row, and he's got a performing mouse. Sam Rockwell, also on death row. Listen, it's actually, it doesn't sound like it. It's a pretty fun movie. It gets a little silly in places, and it doesn't quite come together as well as other movies, but it's pretty fun. 3.5 stars. Let's get back on the Hitchcock train now. Just according to IMDb, just a little bit better than The Green Mile is Psycho, the Hitchcock classic, of course, about Norman Bates and his murder hotel. What I think a lot of people, it's such a famous movie and the twists in it are so well known that it's hard to recognize now what a big deal this movie was and how into it people were and how shocking a movie it was. Again, spoilers, Janet Leigh dies in about the first 20 minutes of this movie, and that was a huge shock to audiences at the time. It's still a very good movie. It is not as great, I think, as some of Hitchcock's other movies. It's certainly very iconic, but it doesn't have the same lush production that I really enjoy in some of his other movies, in part because he got his TV crew from Alfred Hitchcock Presents to film Psycho. They made this movie on the cheap, so it's in black and white. It's produced with the TV crew. It's not quite as grand as some other Hitchcock movies, but, you know, Hitchcock is Hitchcock, and this is a damn fine movie. It's 3.5 stars. Once a Time in the West. Now this is well, I want to call it a spaghetti western, but it's not because it was filmed here in America. It was Sergio Leone, who did the Dollars trilogy, comes over to America to make a movie in Monument Valley. He puts Henry Fonda in it as the bad guy, which is a real stroke of genius. Watching affable Henry Fonda with his bright blue eyes running around shooting people is great. You got Charles Bronson in this one as a guy who plays a harmonica and shoots people. To me, it's a pretty good movie. I think the first 20-25 minutes of it are as good as a movie has ever been, and then it kind of tapers off for my liking a little bit. Still a very good movie. I would see it, especially if you like Leone. 3.5 stars. Saving Private Ryan's up next. So it seems like the IMDB list is a lot of Hitchcock movies and a lot of Tom Hanks movies. We'll see if that keeps up. Saving Private Ryan is the one where Tom Hanks is in the army and he has to save Private Ryan. This is a good movie. It's a good movie. World War II epic from Steven Spielberg. Super gory and violent in the first 10 or 15 minutes, so that's a lot of fun. A lot of great actors in the cast. A really good time. 4 stars. Okay, so apparently it's Hitchcock, Tom Hanks, or Jimmy Stewart, because now we've got It's a Wonderful Life, of course, the classic Christmas movie that I don't think we talk about enough, how it takes an odd turn into science fiction and alternate realities at the end. Although I guess at the beginning it's about angels and stuff, so who am I to judge? This is a well-deserved classic. A really absolutely terrific movie. Every moment is classic and iconic. The performances are amazing. The dialogue is snappy. Frank Capra's direction is wonderful to look at. If you don't watch this movie at least every other Christmas, I don't know what you're doing with your time. 5 big stars. Silence of the Lambs. This is Jonathan Demme's big murder movie about Hannibal Lecter, starring Jodie Foster as the rookie FBI agent who's got to get locked up serial killer Hannibal Lecter to help her catch a different serial killer. This is a great movie. This is a great movie again. Obviously, Anthony Hopkins as Lecter is iconic. Not enough credit, I think, is given to Jodie Foster's terrific performance in this. This is a really solid thriller, real edge-of-your-seat stuff. I'm going to give it 4 stars. Hey, folks, let's talk about Star Wars. The original Star Wars. I see it's listed on IMDB as A New Hope and Episode 4 and all that nonsense. When I was growing up, this movie was just called Star Wars. Let's call it Star Wars. This is a movie that I did not used to like quite as... listen, I love Star Wars, obviously. But I used to have the opinion of, let's take the original Star Wars, let's rank it number 2. I disagree now. It's a great movie. It sets everything up. It's so perfect and wonderful in its standaloneness. You've got George Lucas directing and writing, and it's full of George Lucas's bizarre concept of how people talk and all that kind of a thing. Obviously, this is a great movie, hugely iconic, wonderful in just about every way, a little slow at times, but man, where would we be without Star Wars? I don't think, if you haven't seen it, I don't know what to tell you. You should see it. 4.5 stars. So somehow the dummies at IMDb think The Matrix is better than Star Wars. But there you go. The Matrix is pretty great. Obviously, this is the one where Keanu Reeves and his pals dress up in black leather and shoot at stuff for a while, except it turns out that they're actually living inside of a video game or something because robots took over the world and have a highly improbable and nonsensical way of collecting energy from human bodies, as if this is going to generate a lot of electricity. Look at me. Not going to happen. But still, super fun action movie, very surprising and innovative at the time. Maybe a little up its own backside in places. Pretty good. 3.5 stars. Goodfellas. What a great movie, right? This is Scorsese hitting it out of the park earlier on in his career. Great movie, you know, another movie that's sort of episodic, telling the saga of Ray Liotta as he joins the mob and lives with the mob and all of that. Told simultaneously through his point of view and through his wife's point of view. Terrific, terrific movie. De Niro, Pesci, tons of great moments, great lines. 5 stars. All right, next up, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Jack Nicholson is crazy, I guess. Maybe he's not, but he's in an insane asylum with the likes of Christopher Lloyd and Danny DeVito and a really big Native American dude, along with Nurse Ratched, the nurse who causes them all sorts of grief. This is an excellent movie, very well acted, very profound, very introspective in a lot of ways, a great human story. Again, a little bit episodic as we watch the inmates get up to various, I don't want to call them antics. Antics makes this sound like it's a little bit of an Animal House type movie, and while it has those sorts of moments of, you know, levity and adventure, it's a much more serious movie than that. It's a great movie. It's a 4-star movie. The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. I don't like these Lord of the Rings movies. Are fine. They're fine, but I don't see why everybody thinks they're all that great. Like, they're fun. I'll watch them. I saw them all. Whatever. The Two Towers is the middle one, you know, so it doesn't really start and it doesn't really end. They fight a lot of guys. I don't know. It's super long. Listen, I don't mean to make it sound like it's not good. It's pretty good. I'm gonna give it 3 stars. Inception. This is the one where Christopher Nolan is the director, and he takes a year off from making Batman movies to make a movie about Leonardo DiCaprio hanging around in people's dreams. It's pretty good, but it's super dry. There's not a lot of emotional content to this movie. It's a very antiseptic movie, I think. I know a lot of people really love it. I think it's just okay. So I'm only going to give it 2.5 stars. Forrest Gump. Do you remember when Forrest Gump came out? We were all like, man, Forrest Gump is like the best movie. And we were walking around being all like, life is like a box of chocolates and Jenny, and talking about shrimp and the different ways you can make shrimp, and going to eat at Bubba Gump Shrimp, and playing ping pong and all of that. Yeah, this movie hasn't aged that great, has it? It's all right, but you know, it seems a little bit insulting in the way that it treats Forrest in particular. It's a little nonsensical. It's a marshmallow of a movie that somebody tried to pass off as a gourmet dinner. It's fine. It's 2.5 stars. Jerry, we're going to talk about Empire Strikes Back. That's the one you're in. Yeah. The Empire Strikes Back, that's your second Star Wars movie. It's great. You know, in some ways it improves upon the original. You know, you've got Yoda. You've got great effects. Lawrence Kasdan directs this time instead of George, so it's a little bit more human. The actors get to be a little bit more loose, but it's missing a little bit, just a touch, just the littlest touch of the innovation of the original and the, you know, lightheartedness of the original. But I mean, it's so great in its thematics, and you know, Luke confronting Vader and all that stuff. Cloud City is, of course, great. Everything on Hoth is great. I like the Tauntauns pretty well, obviously. It's a pretty great movie. Yoda, you gotta love Yoda. This review kind of went off the rails a little bit, But I'd say that I would try to get back on track, but then Yoda, I'm sure he would say, there is no try. Ooh. And then he'd probably give it 4.5 stars. Ooh. Oh my goodness, we've got another one of these Lord of the Rings movies. I don't understand how these aren't all the same movie. They really feel like the same movie. Like, at least in the Star Wars movies, they all feel different, and they go to different planets and stuff. Lord of the Rings is just, hey, here's more forest, and here's more of the same looking city. Again, they're fine. I just think they're a little over, people like them too much. There's a word for that if I were smarter, I would give you right now, but it's not coming to me. Overrated! There it is. In any event, these are pretty good movies. Fellowship of the Rings, the first one is probably my favorite. You could probably watch that one and not keep watching the other ones and have an okay story there. It's some good stuff. It's all right. 3.5 stars. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I mentioned this a little while back when we were talking about Once Upon a Time in the West. Again, this is Sergio Leone. It's the spaghetti western classic where Clint Eastwood is the man with no name. Eli Wallach is Tuco, a kind of a grubby bandit kind of a guy. And Lee Van Cleef is Angel Eyes, the steely murderer. This is a great movie. I love this movie. It's one of my absolute favorites. There's so many great parts, and it all builds. The plot is that they're all three of these guys are trying to get to this cache of gold that is buried in a cemetery somewhere. So when they get to the cemetery at the end, and you have the classic ecstasy of gold sequence with the great Ennio Morricone music and Tuco running around like an idiot, and then we get the great three-way gunfight at the end, all against this weird backdrop of the Civil War. This is an amazing, amazing, amazing movie. 5 stars. You guys, it's another Lord of the Rings movie. This one's The Return of the King. This is the last one. It's fine. They're fine. They're all fine. This is the one that never ends, though. This is the one where the movie ends and then we get epilogue after epilogue after epilogue that I do not care about. It's still pretty good. I won't say these movies aren't pretty good. And this one has ghosts in it, so it's, you got to give it the ghost bump a little bit. 3 stars. Tarantino hits the list with Pulp Fiction, maybe his most famous movie. Like, it's certainly the one that put him on the map. Pulp Fiction, of course. This is a movie that's a little bit of an anthology in a way, in that it kind of tells 3 or 4 specific but interwoven stories involving John Travolta and Uma Thurman, and Bruce Willis and Ving Rhames, and Christopher Walken's in it for a little bit. This is a really terrific movie. Again, super iconic. It brought Travolta's career back, and the scene of him and Uma Thurman dancing all like they're, groovy hep cat types and whatever, and, all that. Whatever and all that just goes to show you that I am a professional movie reviewer who's very good at saying things. Pulp Fiction, it's a great movie, 4.5 stars. Schindler's List, this is Steven Spielberg's movie, obviously about the Holocaust, and particularly Liam Neeson as Arthur Schindler, the man who saved so many Jews from execution. It is a big movie. It's a huge movie. Certainly it's a little depressing, as you would expect. It's kind of depressing subject matter. There's not a lot I can say, I think, about the movie or about the situation that does anything any justice. So I'm just going to say that for me, it's a 3-star movie. And there you go. 12 Angry Men is another one of my absolute favorite movies. This is the one where it's 12 dudes led by Henry Fonda hanging around a jury room for an hour and a half, deliberating whether or not this kid committed murder or not. Oh man, is this a great movie. It's the definition of a small movie. They never really leave this room. Amazing performances from the likes of Lee J. Cobb and Martin Balsam and even a younger Jack Klugman. It's a great, great movie. You got to see this movie. It's like a towering movie of cinema and performances. It's so great. A lot of that movie stays with me, and I think about a fair amount. 5 stars. The Dark Knight is Christopher Nolan's middle Batman movie. It's the movie that all of the nerds lost their stuffing over. They were like, oh man, this is the greatest comic book movie that's ever been made. Did you see the Joker? Did you see him? Like, listen, it's a pretty good movie. It's a pretty good movie. These movies are all pretty good. Like I said about Inception, I think they're a little bit antiseptic. And I think, but I like a lot about them. I like a lot of what's going on. These are real solid movies. And Heath Ledger's Joker is great. I suppose I would just prefer my Batman to be maybe just a little bit more fun. Not quite, well, I almost did something real stupid and said one of the Joker's lines completely unironically. But here we go. Why so serious? 3.5 stars to The Dark Knight. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to give you guys my movie reviewer credentials, and you can throw them away and you can take my TV show away. I know that this is what's going to happen. For the thousands and millions of you who watch these videos online, I'm sure the comments below, if they're not already full of vitriol, I think you guys are going to go ballistic about this next one. The Godfather. What is undoubtedly one of the greatest movies ever time. Always a contender for the top 1 or 2 spots in things. The epic of the Italian mob and the Corleone family from Francis Ford Coppola. I don't like it. I have tried really hard, you guys. I rewatch it every couple of years thinking maybe this will be the year that I will get it, that I will love this movie because everybody loves this movie. I just can't get into it. I have tried. Jerry knows. So I deliberated very long over how I would review this one, how many stars to give it, and ultimately I got to just be true to my own feelings about the movie, and I'm very sorry, gang. 2.5 stars. So what is the movie that IMDB thinks is the greatest movie ever made? Shawshank Redemption. Now look, it's a great movie. I love the Shawshank Redemption. I'll watch the Shawshank Redemption all day long, every day. It's an episodic movie about Tim Robbins has been maybe wrongfully sent to prison, and he becomes friends with Morgan Freeman and some of the other prisoners, and they get up to a bunch of antics that make prison look fun, and 1 or 2 that remind you that, ugh, that's right, prison. Terrific movie. Clancy Brown, one of my all-time favorite character actors, is terrific in it as the prison guard. It's got an ending to it that will bring me to tears every damn time. If somehow you haven't seen the movie, I don't want to spoil anything, I will just say Wataneo, and you will know what I am talking about. Amazing, amazing movie. Is it the greatest movie ever made? I find that a little hard to believe, but it's a great movie that I can't really fault. So I'm giving it 5 big stars. So that's all from our IMDb special. Come back next week. Hopefully Mr. Richmond sends me somewhere a little bit more hospitable, and we will see you next time on Every Movie Ever. All right, Jerry, it's almost bedtime.